Let's review what happened in the official gameplay trailer that just released for the Shadow of the ERDTREE DLC. I can't believe this day is finally here. So I will talk about what we saw, what we can speculate story-wise, and just break down what on earth is happening. So if you haven't seen the trailer, I would recommend doing that right now to get the full experience and return here when you're done. Now, while I was sitting in the waiting room for the trailer to drop, I was trying to get any hints from what little was on the screen. In the font used for the word shadow, the letter O had quite an exciting flair around it. It looks like the symbol for Ouroboros, which is a snake eating its own tail. And that's meant to symbolize many things, usually unity, eternity, and rebirth. So it could be alluding to that, or it could just be snake imagery. And as soon as I thought that, I thought, oh my god, are we going to get something Rykard related? Well, let's see. So the trailer begins with what many people theorized as the starting place to access the DLC, which is Mohg's boss room, precisely because that is where Miquella's cocoon is. And we get a shot of that outstretched, long, bloody arm, which was theorized to be Miquella's. And we hear the narrator, or an NPC, say this.
Pure and radiant, he wields love to shrive clean the hearts of men.
Pure and radiant, he wields love. Now this sounds precisely like one is describing Miquella. We know that Miquella is cursed with eternal youth. He has a childlike appearance that could be described as pure. In the few depictions that we had of him, he's shown to have long golden hair, often wearing white, which one could describe as radiant. Wielding love is appropriate because in many item descriptions that mention Miquella, they talk about how good he was or good he is at charming people. The bewitching branch description says he is loved by many people. Indeed, he has learned very well how to compel such affection. The second part implies that he is aware of how charming he is. He knows what he's doing with his ability. This explains why this voice line describes him as wielding love. He's using it.
He wields love to shrive clean the hearts of men.
He goes on to say he wields love to shrive clean the hearts of men. Shrive is an archaic word which means to absolve. A priest will shrive a sinner, for example, give them penance. So in this context, it's saying that Miquella will absolve these men of their sinful hearts and cleanse them. Moving on.
There is nothing more terrifying.
So we're left with quite a contradiction from the previous lines. Miquella helps these people do that, but it is terrifying. It's scary to be so compelled, so open, and have your heart exposed to Miquella. Whether these people are aware that they are so charmed by him while it was happening, we don't know. But this character, this narrator, does comment that it's terrifying. This is actually backed up by a quote from Melania. In her armor, it actually references Miquella. It says, her brother possesses the wisdom, the allure of a god. He is the most fearsome Empyrean of all. This is quite a statement. It's possible that she's saying because of his power to charm anyone, that's why he is so powerful. For reference, an Empyrean is a mighty demigod, and probably from what we understand, someone who is eligible to become the next godlike being, like Marika, an heir to her godhood. And we know that because Rani says, I was once an Empyrean. Of the demigods, only I, Miquella, and Melania could claim that title. Each of us was chosen by our own two fingers as a candidate to succeed Queen Marika, to become the new god of the coming age. So if Melania is telling the truth, and not embellishing her statement about her brother, Miquella is the most imposing of the three siblings, out of Rani, Melania, and himself. But that might be a subjective statement. Melania does say she has never known defeat, and then you do beat her. So take that with a grain of salt. Let's move on. So we get this sweeping shot of a landscape with you, the tarnished riding torrent, racing towards wherever this is. And I won't lie, I don't know if this is Landel or something like it. Really not that good with building significance. I would leave that up to someone like the Tarnished Archaeologist. But for the most part, I'm going to say that where this DLC takes place is not within the Lands Between as we know it. I think we're going to go to some shadow dimension. It's a similar version of the world with a tree at its centre, but the places around it are slightly different. So we see the Tarnished moving across a field with all of these which look like spectral gravestones, and there are a lot of them. And in the background you can see these knotty, pale, what looks like tree roots. Very interesting. Perhaps these are from this so-called shadow of the Erdtree. Then the Tarnished moves out to the cliff's edge and looks out, and we get this close-up of the tree. First of all, what is going on here? There is this bizarre lighting effect going on. It looks almost like curtains draping down from the sky. It's strange, like a literal veil is hanging above the world. And you've got this red-orange light source behind the tree. And on top of the branches here, you have this fading gold light coming off the tree itself, or slightly behind it and above. I will say, this whole imagery reminds me a lot of the Shadowlands reveal for World of Warcraft, a break that causes a rift between two worlds, the living and the dead. And I can't help but think, with this weird fabric-like blanket and light from above, like the name of the DLC is called, that it is some kind of mirror world, but we're in the evil and dark kind. Now we get a sneak peek at some new fashion. This is a new helmet, I believe, and armor set with this classic Elden Ring cape style. And in the foreground, there's this beam of light in a distinctive shape. At first, I thought it was Melania's rune. It looks kind of similar, apart from this bit sticking out, so it could be one of the other runes, maybe a combination of them. It does appear to be impaled in the ground. Maybe it's a wieldable weapon, spell, or some kind of marker. Also, in the far back here, you can see what looks like a close-up of the base of this shadow tree. You can see this golden sap spilling out here. So it looks like we can get pretty close to this thing. And it is dark down here. Then cut to this majestic fit right here. Full metal face helmet, full Spartan armor, massive two-hander sword. I love it. And I actually wonder if this is an enemy because of their pose with the sword resting in the ground like this with their two hands. I'm not sure if there is a player emote like that. Or maybe there will be. Either way, love this design. Then we get what looks like a giant based on their helmet and armor with an equally giant pot and these really unique spirally pillars. This is followed by one of my favourite shots from the whole trailer. You have this individual lying on the ground here with all of these new flower types. A lovely purple-white colour scheme is going on here. You have this porcelain face with long white plaited hair. I would love for all of this to be an obtainable headpiece. And this could all be a reference to St. Trina. St. Trina is a mysterious character often referenced with a purple colour scheme and associated with sleep. So this individual could be sleeping.
In that forsaken place, blood must spill. Blood of your fellows.
All the while we hear a different character speaking these words. Blood of our fellows. And how is this person sitting on a throne with this fanned neck piece, which I believe is called a ruff, collar from the 16th, 17th century, sitting, watching us approach. It could be a boss or the one who is saying these words we're hearing right now. And then here we are. We've got it, guys. We've got what looks like a swamp. It's horrible. It's very bog-like, very witchy, dreadful. I hate it. I love it.
The ERDTREE faithful.
Then we get a painting of two unknown characters here. An older man giving us that 1,000-foot lead poisoning stare. Quite unsettling. He's got a pretty distinctive brooch in the middle here. And I don't know what it is about this, but it just strikes me as quite omen-y, like the omen fetishes. And even the cloak that wraps around him is very similar to the one that we see Morgott wearing, especially when he's transformed into his more humanoid size. This is just a gut feeling, though. And then you have this other figure standing upright next to them, hand resting on their shoulder, and the other hand on their abdomen, or possibly gesturing towards them. Some traces of dark hair up here, coming up from under their head covering. Possibly a lady, and possibly close or related to whoever this is. Very mysterious. Cut to pot cave. Are these our jar friends? I hope not, because they seem to be hanging quite uncomfortably in this area. Maybe some kind of jumping puzzle for us. More lava stages here, like Volcano Manor, and all of that fun navigating those always. So what is this character holding? Kind of looks like some kind of cross. Then we get this nice shot of what looks like the main city. Probably not Landor, like I said earlier, and you've got these same distinctive twirly pillars going on here. You can see the withering, crumbling tree to the side here, and those weird veils in the light here. And there is a new voice narrating this segment.
They were never saints. They just happened to be on the losing side of a war.
This voice is addressing someone or a group of individuals as not saints and on the wrong or losing side of a war. Who exactly could they be referring to, and what war as well? One of the past wars? We know there have been a couple, like the First or Second Leonian War, the Giant War perhaps. As the narrator is saying this, we are getting this shot of a colossal enemy, which is incredible design. It's like a massive burning brazier with this sun face at the centre. However, on closer inspection, it does look like tentacles or horns rather than sun rays that are usually depicted in such iconography. A couple of people have already informed me that this is a Wickerman reference, whether it be to the old Celtic myth or inspiration drawn from the Berserk depiction. Regardless, it's awesome to behold this guy. Oh my, if we see what I first thought was one of those elongated snake enemies you find at Volcano Manor, but it doesn't have the same facial anatomy. And if you look a bit closer, it appears to have multiple eyes or orifices going down its tube head. And from what I can see, no teeth like the snakes do. I can't tell if it has legs either from this shot. It might just be a long body, long arms, just a big tube. Then we have this fascinating enemy design. You can see what looks like a lion's head at first. But looking closer, there are two sets of teeth. The outer ones are more canine-like fangs, but the inner layer of teeth is quite blunt and uniform, closer to human teeth, but perfectly rounded. You have this human hand come out and shove at the lion's outer jaw. Presumably it's quite weighty, and they're trying to lift it up. We then get this whole shot of this fascinating enemy design. You can see what looks like the lion's head. You can see a clearer look of the two layers of teeth here. And the whole thing is just strangely shaped. It looks like those costumes where you have two people inside. One is operating the head and the front legs, and the second one is in the back on all fours, controlling the back segment. Along here we can see horns and antler-like offshoots, which is very reminiscent of the lion guardians in places like Stormvale Castle, Castle Sol, Redmane Castle. I do have a Q&A video exploring why these lions have these offshoots, but it is possibly something Crucible or Omen related. Either way, something is really off here when you look at this face. It's strangely humanoid, strangely lion, haunting blue eyes, the two layers of teeth. It is really quite uncanny. And in these shots of it moving, it's clumsy. It's barreling around, uncoordinated. And at some points you can see the humanoid feet and legs underneath. It's staggering around, almost like someone is carrying the top-heavy lion part of it. And then you get lightning on top of it all. This beast can apparently wield lightning, which is most commonly seen with dragons. So this is a really cool change. This creature is most likely some kind of primal Crucible Omen-like fight, which is going to be awesome.
Mother, wouldst thou truly lordship sanction in one so bereft of light?
This is the poster character of the DLC. Here they are. And here's the snake that was hinted at in the title. Later in this trailer, someone called Mesmer is referenced to when talking about fire and using shots of this character, so we can probably assume that this is this character's name, Mesmer. And if Mesmer is speaking these words, directing them at his mother, possibly Marika, he's questioning how someone is Elden Lord. Wouldst thou truly lordship sanction? In other words, would you really endorse someone like this to be a lord? Or maybe this isn't Mesmer talking, but another character referencing Mesmer when they say, Mother, why is this guy of lord's quality when he is so far from radiance? I mean, look at him. That's what Bereft of Light is referring to. However, I'm pretty sure this is Mesmer talking. They have quite a distinct, almost snobby voice that would fit this kind of aesthetic. And speaking of aesthetics, let's look more at this. You have these snakes curling around them, maybe multiple snakes, or this could be Ouroboros. Sometimes the symbol is depicted as having two heads, so this could be one snake with no tail. You have this brilliant red cape and this red fire and this little wing sticking out here. And it does resemble the Drake set, as it has the same distinct silhouette. And this is very well timed, as I just released a video the other day where I was looking at this specific set and dragons. This armor that Mesmer wears may be some kind of mega version of the Drake set. And another reason why this character might have something to do with dragons is when we get this close-up shot, we can see that Mesmer has golden eyes and slitted pupils, which you can get through learning multiple dragon incantations, because it's a side effect of consuming dragon hearts. However, dragon eyes also look like snake eyes. You have the snake detailing on the top of their helmet, and of course his snake buddies we saw earlier. So could be snakes, could be dragons, he could like both. God forbid someone have a hobby. And of course, another exciting thing to note is the red hair. Red hair is a massive symbol throughout the game, connected to cursed beings and connections to Radagon. In the dialogue, this character is referencing someone called Mother, so could we be seeing another child of Marika and Radagon? Very, very interesting. We cut away for now to another fight with new enemies. These are fighting with some kind of candlestick, which I love. They possibly look like some kind of enemies we would find in the swamp. This might also be a new weapon. How the Tarnished is holding this weapon looks quite unique. I can't quite tell, but this is the gameplay trailer, so I would expect that they're only going to show new mechanics and animations. Speaking of which, we have throwing knives and some kind of ghost spirit hit. What can I say about this one? AoE, pink, manic pixie dream girl, butterfly, magic levitation explosion. Yeah, I'm so pleased right now. This too, that is the coldest thing I've seen all day. It looks like some kind of skill that lets you do a spinning flying kick, or maybe support for doing unarmed builds. Throwing big pots, rapid fire crossbow, and is this a new armor as well? I don't really recognize this helmet. This looks like a bear, specifically a bear shout, as you can see some humanoid legs underneath. We already have a couple of roars like Beast Roar and Grey Roar's Roar, so this one appears to give you a bear-themed skill. Hello, Sekiro. This is beautiful. A brand new enemy type, brand new armor and swords that they're using in this beautiful white flowered blue glowing meadow. And whoever captured this segment, by the way, did absolutely amazing. This is literally art. In the background here, the narrator or character is referencing Miquella, saying, I'm sure you want to know what Miquella is doing here.
Presume you, too, are keen to know just what kind Miquella is doing here.
Presume you two are keen to know what kind Miquella is doing here. Just what kind Miquella is doing here. So kind is being used as an adjective to describe Miquella. And that is interesting. Yes, I am wondering what he's doing. This is probably our Tree Sentinel equivalent for the DLC. Now with War Boar. Look at this guy. Whoever this is amazing. Look at this purple lance and headpiece. Yeah, I absolutely love it. And here we have the lobster equivalent. So instead of the giant crayfish jumping up on you in Liurnia, you now have this open mouth porcupine enemy type. Now, do you see what I see here? Very Orphan, of course, from Bloodborne. The body shape and weapon, that is creepy. Okay, I'm gonna stop the comparisons now. But this design, I love. You have this bone boomerang here, the exposed spine that turns into this blue-eyed blob head, all while riding this poor horse, dragging itself and its master along, unable to use its hind legs. As a side note, can we please give horses a poor break? I can't tell if this creature is fused to the horse, or possibly has no legs or just short legs. It looks like the horse's skin is melting away here. So maybe this area melts skin, and this is why the creature is riding the horse, so it doesn't touch the floor, although it appears maybe a bit too late for this guy. This is hands down one of my favourite shots from the whole trailer. I mean, it's excellent, so visceral. And look here, a very familiar symbol. This is the same old guy we saw in the portrait earlier, and he appears to have been impaled with this pronged device, or could it be part of his anatomy? This instantly reminds me of a weapon called the Sword of Milos, which is a great sword made up of a spine. The Dung Eater uses that weapon, presumably from one of his victims, Milos, who is an undersized giant. He appears quite emaciated. You can barely see the outline of his legs and body. All he has is this big spine thing. And if this is a boss, I just can't wait to see him pull it out and see how he fights. And while we're seeing this, we hear the narrator say,
Those stripped of the grace of gold shall all meet death in the embrace of Mesmer's flame.
Those stripped of the grace of gold shall all meet death in the embrace of Mesmer's flame. So this is the part where we can assume that this is Mesmer here, as he is the one using flames. Dragonfire, possibly. And this sentence appears to be saying that anyone who loses sight of grace will face the wrath of Mesmer. And I believe everyone lost the ability to see grace as part of America's plan. When everyone was banished, they went away, they got stronger, so they would have the strength to free her. So Mesmer possibly wasn't stripped of this in this other weird universe. Could there possibly be an alternate America here? Who knows? It's clearly leading up to Mesmer being the final or main boss of the DLC.
Come now, touch the withered arm and travel to the realm of shadow. I will not be far behind. May we meet again.
So that was what sounded like Mikola speaking here. We know who Mikola's voice actor is. That is credited to Naomi MacDonald, and this sounds a lot like her voice. It sounds like Mikola is instructing us to go to the withered hand in the cocoon, which will then transport us to the realm of shadow. Convincing us to touch it and saying he won't be far behind implies that Mikola is not actually in the cocoon. Could he have tricked us this whole time? The cocoon was just a diversion. Maybe Mikola is saying this to us from the cocoon. Either way, he seems to know something that we don't. He wants us to go there and is going to help us with our journey. He will likely be our new guide, like how Melina is our guide for most of the base game. And at the end here, we see a glimpse of him, glowing, radiant, outstretching a hand to the tree, which seems to be glowing even brighter, the tops of which look silver now. And that light is definitely coming from behind the tree. So what is the tree? What does it mean? Well, it looks like the ERDTREE as we knew it, but broken halfway down, almost like it's been felled. It has this black, dark aura surrounding it, like something that has been burned, post us burning it. Or could this be an ERDTREE that has failed to grow? Like Mikola's Haligtree, he actually tried to make his own ERDTREE, watered it with his own blood, but it failed to turn into an ERDTREE. It might be something like that, hence why it is called Shadow of the ERDTREE. To be in someone's shadow means to receive less attention than another. One is in the spotlight, while the other is cast in shadow. That might be what this world is, a world with America's forgotten, unwanted children, and Mesmer might be one of those. That's why the dialogue ponders who is worthy of lordship, hinting that he was not chosen. As a side note, Mesmer sounds like the word mesmerizing. The source of the word being from Franz Mesmer, a physician who used hypnosis to try and treat diseases. This posits a really intriguing theory that Mesmer has this ability, which is similar to Mikola, who uses his bewitching nature. It would also fit really nicely with snakes and snake charming, very reminiscent of the hypnotizing snake eyes from the Jungle Book. Anyway, these are my initial thoughts from watching the trailer. I really hope you enjoyed this. It was much more spontaneous than my usual lore content, but I really just wanted to get my thoughts out there. So let me know what you think of the trailer, and I hope you're all as excited as I am. We will have to wait until nearly the end of June before we can play the DLC, so in the meantime, I will be cooking up some more lore. Thank you all so much for listening, and see you later in the shadow of the Erdtree.